en un viaje hacia el corazón de la historia judía, a través de la historia de la familia Taitel, pero especialmente a través de los ojos de un niño, Hanania. Acompañémoslo en un viaje en el tiempo, en el que caminaremos por épocas oscuras, tiempos de dolor y sacrificio. Iremos con él por caminos llenos de peligro, de incertidumbre, de momentos de desesperación. Trataremos de sentir el sufrimiento del hambre, del frío y sobre todo de las despedidas. Despedidas que marcan la vida. La despedida del hogar, de un mundo conocido, de una vida que ya no existe. Un niño obligado a crecer demasiado rápido, a abandonar su infancia demasiado pronto, a despedirse de su familia, de los seres que ama. Es una historia de valentía y de resistencia, pero también de profunda tristeza. La historia de Hanania es también la historia de los niños de Tehran, esos niños que atravesaron los mismos temores y las mismas sombras, que caminaron juntos en busca de un futuro que parecía imposible. Esos niños, con su valentía y su fuerza, se convirtieron en los pilares sobre los que se formó una nueva esperanza, una nueva vida. Esta es la historia de todos nosotros, una historia compartida de sacrificio, coraje y sobre todo de esperanza.
Pero en mi familia me llaman Hanania. 2 camiones Chevrolet. Solo 2 camiones contenían toda nuestra vida. Toda una vida comprimida en ellos.
Hanania, hijo, carguen los camiones. Pan, queso, almohadas, impermeables, mantas, lo que sea que encuentren.
Papá y mamá salieron de la casa con los papeles de la fábrica, de los 5 apartamentos que teníamos y todos los documentos familiares en las manos. Toda una vida dentro de un camión. Partimos. Mira hacia atrás. Vi el cartel Fábrica de Cervezas Tahiti. El camión siguió avanzando, lentamente, pero con seguridad. Veía mi casa hacerse cada vez más pequeña hasta que desapareció. Esa fue la última vez que la vi. El padre de mi padre y su hermano conducían los camiones. La dirección, Bialystok, a 100 kilómetros de casa. Éramos parte de una corriente de refugiados que crecía a medida que nos desplazábamos, avanzando juntos. Una larga fila de vagones, carros tirados por caballos y caminantes exhaustos. Y entonces, bombardeos, aviones, fuego, humo, la gente caía a mi alrededor, algunos heridos, otros muertos. Empezamos a correr a todas direcciones sin saber a dónde ir. Cuando la situación se calmó un poco, salimos, pero la gasolina se había acabado. El camión fue abandonado. Papá compró una carreta y un caballo. Pagó una fortuna por eso. Casi todo lo que teníamos. 2 semanas después de la huida y nuestro patrimonio se había desvanecido. Nos quedamos con una maleta, una olla y algunos utensilios de cocina, una manta que nos acompañaría por varios años, abrigos, muchos abrigos. Pero incluso estos al igual que el mundo que conocíamos, poco a poco desaparecieron. Bialystok era nuestro destino, una ciudad bajo el control soviético. De las manos de Hitler caímos a las manos de Stalin. La pregunta es, ¿qué es peor? De repente sentimos que ya no teníamos lugar en nuestro mundo, ni en nuestra casa, ni en nuestra ciudad, ni siquiera en nuestro propio país. Bialystok era un lugar de desesperación. Nuestro pasado era algo distante, como un sueño. ¿Podemos seguir adelante? ¿Aún hay alguna posibilidad de seguir con la vida que teníamos? Nos convertimos en refugiados y todo lo que queda son solo recuerdos. Y lo que queda es solo una pregunta. ¿Qué es peor?
Por favor, permítanme presentarles a nuestra invitada de honor del día de hoy, la doctora Michal Decker, hija de Hanani.
We stopped when my father and his family, that is his parents and himself and his sister. I want to remind you, my father is 12, just before turning 13. His sister is 9. They are living in Bialystok, near the Soviet border with Poland. After 6 months of surviving there, and I want you to imagine that there are millions of people like them, refugees who are trying to make ends meet. After 6 months, in the middle of the night, 2 Secret Service policemen come, knock on the door, tell them, come with us, you're going back to Poland. I want to remind you that in Poland, there are Nazis who control the rest of Poland. They take them to these trains. These are cattle trains. These are not trains made for people. They board them up and they tell them, go. They're on these trains for almost 2 weeks. Right? 2 weeks with hardly any food, with hardly any water. After 2 weeks, they're dropped in the middle of a forest. The trains didn't go back to Poland. They went to Siberia. The trains are in Siberia. They're taken to what is called a gulag, a Soviet gulag. A Soviet gulag is basically a slave camp. They were refugees and now they are slaves. This is what a gulag looks like. We don't have pictures of my father in the gulag or of hardly anybody else because the Soviets forbade taking photos. We have hardly any photos of any gulag. In this gulag, my father and his parents, my father is now 13, anybody over 13 works in the gulag. Every day they walk 20 kilometers in the snow. Now, I want to remind you, the temperature in Siberia at the time is minus 50 degrees Celsius. Thankfully, they do have the codes from Ostrov. They walk and they cut down trees. Now, of course, a 13-year-old doesn't know how to cut down trees, but also the adults who are office workers don't know how to do this work either. They're given very, very little food, and many people die in the gulags. The gulag, unlike the German death camp, was not built to kill people, but it's killed many people. People are basically like pieces of coal. They're disposable. If they die, they bring somebody else to work. They're in the gulags for 14 months. Now, many people get sick. My grandfather, Zindel, contracts tuberculosis in the gulag. After 14 months, they are released from the gulag and sent on a second exile. What you see in front of you is a kind of exile card. So basically, they take you out of the gulag and they tell you, now you must go to Uzbekistan. And I'm going to show you in the map in a minute, but Uzbekistan is about 3,500 kilometers away. Now, you're not put in a train, you're told that's where you're going. You're going to this and this village in Uzbekistan. You've already been 2 years a refugee and a slave. You don't have anything. Imagine if today somebody told you, now get out of the school, leave your wallet here, go to Bogota. By foot, by train, on a cart, however way you can. This is what they do, they go south. And if you look at this map again, you can see the distances, kind of unbelievable. And I want to remind you that these are children, maybe like many of you, who never even left their hometown before. Now they're already maybe 5,000 kilometers away from home. When they get to Uzbekistan, which they hope will be better because Uzbekistan is in the south and it's warm, in fact, unfortunately, things get worse. Why? Because of the heat. In the heat, you have more diseases. So you have famine, you have no food, not even starvation, true starvation. I mean, people just lie on the streets and die of hunger. And on top of that, diseases that come from with starvation, malaria, and so on. My father, at this point, has become almost the father. He's now almost 14. His father is very ill. He's helping his mother get food and survive. My father here becomes sick as well with malaria. He's hospitalized, but luckily he survives and he's released from the hospital.
cientos de padres quedándose atrás, pero lo sabíamos. Sabíamos que teníamos que irnos. Este lugar terrible, no nos sostendría por mucho más tiempo. No sobreviviríamos aquí.
No quiero ir.
Yo tampoco lo quería. Pero lo sabíamos. Sabíamos que no había otra opción.
Recuerden, los enviamos porque tienen que vivir, no porque queramos separarnos, porque no hay otra salida. Y tal vez después de este largo viaje, lleguen a un lugar diferente.
Un lugar donde haya más que un pedazo de pan puro. Un lugar donde no nos llamen salvajes. Un lugar donde los niños no tengan que buscar cáscaras de árbol para sobrevivir. Tómalos, mamá. Yo conseguiré otros en Tehran.
Vayan, vivan, no nos olviden.
Se quedarán ahí, en la colina. Mamá y papá nos verán subir al tren. Se despedirán con nosotros. Se despedirán de la mano con nosotros. Nos verán desaparecer. Ya estaban muy débiles. La guerra les había arrebatado todo. Su hogar, su salud, sus últimas fuerzas. Pero aún nos tenían a nosotros. Aún tenían un último momento al cual aferrarse. Tehran, el lugar que será nuestro nuevo comienzo. Nuevas calles, nuevos olores, una nueva vida. Pero antes sobreviviremos este camino. Esta es la única familia que me queda en el mundo. Soy un niño que se ha convertido en un anciano de 15 años. Mi hermana Regina de 11. Emma de 10. Solos en el mundo, a punto de emprender un viaje de 1500 kilómetros. El viaje que iniciamos en Polonia creyendo que cada estación sería la última. ¿Será esta realmente la última estación? ¿Será?
Dedicamos esta canción a nuestra invitada de honor, en reconocimiento a su canción favorita.
Thank you.
chance to leave Uzbekistan together with the Polish army. This is a very, very hard decision. How do you decide as a parent? Are you going to send your small children alone into the world with a chance you'll never see them again? Or are you going to keep them with you and say, my fate will be my children's fate? And people decide different things. In some cases, children run away to leave. When you're starving, you'll do anything. In some cases, children refuse to leave and their parents tell them they have to leave to save themselves and to save their younger children. My grandparents decide to send the children. They stand in the train in Uzbekistan knowing that they will never possibly see them again. My father takes, as we saw, Hanania, my father takes his shoes off, gives it to his mother and says, wherever I go, they're going to give me shoes. You take my shoes. This is how they part. My grandparents stand on a hill in Samarkand, near Samarkand, and watch their children, small children, leave in the train. This is my father, who's now 15, his sister, and also a young cousin that they found in the bazaar, in the market. She also got to Uzbekistan in a different route with her father. Her father died in Uzbekistan. They accidentally found her in a market selling her clothes. She was 9. The 3 children leave. My father, who was a child, is now the father to these 2 girls. They're on a train from Uzbekistan to Turkmenistan. Then they cross what you see, the Caspian Sea, and get to Tehran. This is what some of the children look like. This is not my father, but this is what some of the children look like. So you can see how ill they are, how malnourished they are. They have eye diseases. A lot of them have malaria and so on. And many children, in fact, die in Tehran, in Iran, and are still buried in Iran to this day. But in Iran, their fate starts to somewhat change. In Iran, there is no war, there is bread, and there is a Jewish community, both a local Jewish community and emissaries who come from Palestine, who come from Eretz Israel, with the thought that they will be brought to Eretz Israel eventually. The Jewish children who did not travel as a group, right? They're traveling with a lot of other refugees. Gradually they are collected into this area that you see here. This is called the Jewish Children's Home of Tehran. Not much of a home, right? It's a few tents, one structure there where they put the small children. You have children as small as 2-year-old. You have toddlers. So children under 4 are in the building and everybody else is collected into tents, divided by age and by gender and so on. And this tent, little Hebrew children's group, is within a huge, huge refugee camp of Polish citizens inside Tehran. The children are here starting to be taught Hebrew, a little bit of Hebrew songs. A very famous Tzipora Shotek, who was the wife of the kind of Jewish prime minister at the time, come from Palestine to help them, but it's not so easy to get them to Palestine, right? I mean, this, by the way, is a group of the older boys. This is my father, where you see the arrow. Very surprisingly, he has hair, where a lot of other children don't have hair because they have a lot of lice. And in the middle is their counselor. The counselor comes from the Zionist organization, the Shomer HaTzair. He too is a refugee, but these young refugees who come from Zionist youth movements are taking care of the children and organizing them with the thought of eventually one day bringing them to Palestine. Sorry, let me go back. I just want to show you this. The local Persian Jewish community in Tehran, as well as other Jewish refugees who are in Tehran, because there are Iraqi Jews and German Jews and Austrian Jews who are all refugees in Tehran, also take care of these children. They invite them to different places, and eventually they even build a synagogue, or part of a synagogue, for these, not just for the children, for other Jewish refugees who come from Poland and other countries. So if you can read Hebrew, you can see this says, Beit HaKnesset HaYehudim HaEropim, the synagogue of the European Jews. This is the first time European Jews come to Iran, and they're allowed to worship in the way that, that they're used to. For the first time in history, these children are brought to the synagogue in Iran in Yom Kippur 1942. The little children are marched inside, and you can imagine 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds, my father, his sister, walking in rags, and the entire population of the synagogue starts crying and wailing. And these are children, again, without parents, missing their parents, not sure what's going to happen to them, and they come together, they bring them to their homes and so on. Getting the children to Palestine, however, is on the one hand, it's easy, it's close by. You can see that Tehran is pretty close to Tel Aviv. On the other hand, it's very hard. There is a war. There are a couple of wars going on, and there is no way to take them anywhere. Nobody wants to take them to Palestine. They say, we're going to keep them here. You can send them to Iraq. We'll keep them there, but we won't let you go. Eventually, the children are taken on British warships in this route here. They're making this whole route here on a British warship. There are sea mines. There are bombings. A couple of times they think they're not going to make it. The children are very, very brave. Eventually, however, they make it to Palestine. When they get to Palestine, the 3 children are interned in a kind of refugee camp, and then begins a battle where who is going to raise them? Who is going to raise these children? Who is going to take them? Different schools want them, different Jewish organizations want them, individuals want them, offer to take them. Do they go to a kibbutz, a collective settlement in a farm? Do they go to a religious school? In the case of my father and his sister and their cousin, there are 2 relatives fighting who will take them, and whoever will take them will bring up a very different person. One is a very, very religious relative, one is a relative in kibbutz and Charod, the collective settlement. The children eventually, through their own decision, especially my father's decision, decide that they will go to a kibbutz, and that's where they're raised. They're raised to work and study and so on. This is where they spend, my father is already 15 here, this is where they spend their youth until they're old enough to leave. My father eventually leaves the kibbutz, goes to Haifa, and I want you to remember that his journey is not over, his battle is not over. He doesn't have anything, he's in a new country, he's without his parents, and even worse, and this is true for all the children left their parents inside the war. They're safe, but they left their parents inside the war. So for them, the war is not over. My father, all the years, tries to write to different people to bring his parents to Palestine. Remember, Palestine then is controlled by the British government. The Jews don't control Palestine. They say, we're very sorry, we brought your kids here, but we're not going to let your parents in. My father does everything in their power, then they do everything in their power to send them food, to send them something so they survive. Unfortunately, he's not able to bring them. My grandmother, who you see on the right there, survives. But even after the war is over, even after 45, they're not able to reunite with their children. They leave the Soviet Union, they eventually are in the displaced persons camp in Germany. So they really remain refugees. The parents remain refugees for 10 years. Only after the creation of the State of Israel, my grandmother is able to come and reunite with her children in 1949. Unfortunately, only a few months before, my grandfather dies of the tuberculosis in Germany. It is still buried in Germany today. My grandmother makes it, and she lives with us until her death. My father eventually leaves the kibbutz. He marries my mother, who you see here. He works for the Israeli Air Force, and he has 3 children. And this is in my brother's bar mitzvah. And he has 3 children, including myself. And unfortunately, long after his death, I delved into researching my father's history, spent 10 years not only researching, but traveling and out of this map that you just saw, and writing the story of my father, who is not really only the story of my father, but the story of 1,000 Tehran children, and moreover, 250,000 Polish Jews who survived in this way on the Soviet side, who survived exactly in this way by deportations to gulags and in Central Asia. In fact, this is the story of most Polish Jewish survivors. So this is my very personal story, but also a very big slice of Jewish history, especially of Holocaust history.
מלא רגשי גיל שדרך מיסודיהם נגמרה כבר והגיעו למחוז חפצם. הילדים העבריים כאן התחנכו חינוך עברי באווירה חופשית של מולדת נבנית. מורה עברית נפגש עם תלמידו הנותר. שוטר עברי משוחח עם הילדים. האוטובוסים מחכים. ימים ספורים יהיו הילדים במחנה ומשם למקומות שיכונם הזמניים. שם יחלקו אותם וישלחו אותם ליישובים החקלאיים ולמוסדות אשר בהם יקבלו את חינוכם. או נערים שנותקו מהוריהם אשר נשארו ברוסיה. עם השיירה הגיעו גם כמה תינוקות שנולדו בדרך. אצלית התחנה האחרונה, יצאנתי שקדיה, הכל הוכן לקבל את פניהם. חברות מגן דוד אדום עוזרות להוריד את הילדים ולהעבירם למחנה. ברציף התחנה מחכה הנריאטה סול, בידה הופקדו הילדים הללו. שמות חלקים גלעתיים, יוצאי גרמניה ואירופה המרכזית, חונכו על ידי המשרד לעליית הנוער הנמצא בסיפוחה. כעת הצטרפו אליהם ילדי פולין עולי טהרן. מעטים אחד מהם יורד בארוכה. חבילותיהם בידיהם פונים הילדים מן הקרונות לאוטובוסים המחכים להם.
Mi nombre es Henrietta Zoe. Seguramente se están preguntando, ¿qué hace una mujer como yo en esta historia? Toda mi vida me he dedicado a la salvación de los niños judíos. Y mi última misión es rescatar a esos niños y acogerlos aquí, en la estación de refugiados de Exile. Esos niños que pasaron continentes, países, cansados y agotados, hambrientos, descalzos y con la ropa rota. Algunos se permitían llorar por primera vez al contar que sus padres habían muerto. Cosa que no pudieron hacer antes porque ¿cómo un niño hambriento puede llorar? ¿De dónde saca las fuerzas? Ahora que están en las manos cálidas de sus hermanos, se permitieron llorar. Pero nosotros, la nación hebrea, decidió, ya no van a haber niños huérfanos, ahora todos serán hijos de la nación judía. Sí, niños, han llegado a casa. Las mujeres los recibieron con naranjas recién cosechadas de nuestra tierra, la tierra de Israel. Un viaje que solo tenía que durar 48 horas, duró 48 días, pero por fin los refugiados se convertían en inmigrantes. La absorción será larga. Ya casi terminó la carta para su familia. Estimado señor Tate, sus hijos han llegado a Palestina. Están contentos con sus vidas, estudiando en la escuela, están saludables y felices. Le informamos que se han reunido con familiares cercanos. Quería preguntarle si nos daría su permiso para que el kibbutz Ein Harod adopte a los niños. Le deseo todo lo mejor. No sé si esta carta llegará dentro de todas las llamas que están destruyendo a Europa y a nuestro pueblo de origen. Sin embargo, me pregunto, ¿recordarán los niños el mal que intentó aniquilarlos o el bien que intentó salvarlos?
First of all, as you can see from my father's story, you have inside you more strength than you think you do. These children were regular children, like all of you. They went to school, they lived in a town where their family lived for 8 generations, and suddenly they were thrown into the world in which they had to be completely different people, and they found the strength, and they made it, and they were heroic in their own way, and they were pragmatic, and children are very smart and very capable. Second thing is to help each other, to rely on each other. A lot of times people ask me, who was the hero of your book? I said to them, the hero of my book is cooperation. It's Jewish communities from all over the world, including Mexico, who helped these children, both in when they were in the Soviet Union and in Iran. It's non-Jewish communities. It's a cooperation between different governments, between different individuals. There were many acts of kindness in this very, very horrible story. And life is just not really one thing, and hopefully even under the worst circumstances, you can find hope. And this is a story ultimately of hope and courage. My father and many of the other Tehran children, even those who lost their parents, and many in fact became orphans, and not only lost their parents, but lost their cousins and their uncles and their grandparents and their entire past, for the most part, restarted their lives, built themselves, had new families, contributed to society, and so on. And as you saw in the act with Henrietta Sold, many people tried to help them. I want to remind you again that these children came to Palestine in February 1943. This is the middle of the war. People don't even know exactly what's going on yet. They're the first group to come from Europe. So they become incredibly important. Not only, what happens to them is not only important to themselves, but also to the community who greets them. Many people that I interviewed in Israel today remember the day that the Tehran children came to Israel, all the people. This was a very big day. So remember to have hope, to rely on others, to help others, And for those of you who can, and especially if you're immigrants and you have complicated family histories, to know your family history. I think it's very, very important to know where you came from, who you are, and hopefully take that into your future and into the world of the next generations. Thank you.
Que fue asfixiada en las cámaras de gas, asesinada y torturada cruelmente antes de poder vivir la vida que le estaba destinada. Iskor, el grito de hambre y frío, el dolor de su cuerpo quebrantado, el simple deseo de que acaricien su cabeza, el sentimiento de vacío, la necesidad de sentirse protegido en el abrazo de su madre, al niño que anhelaba una palabra amable, un consuelo, la figura que lo alimentara con amor y no con crueldad. 1.500.000 mundos que desaparecieron, que cayeron, que no llegaron a ser escuchados. Mundos enteros que fueron borrados en momentos oscuros, perdidos para siempre. Dios, recuerda las almas puras, a los niños y niñas que fueron asesinados en el campo de batalla de la maldad. Que su memoria sea bendita y que sus almas estén unidas en el tesoro de la vida. Esos mundos serán grabados en el corazón de una nación.